The sun was beginning its descent over the vast savanna, stretching long golden fingers of light across the dry grass. The air shimmered with heat, and the earth smelled of dust and old rain, a scent that told stories of both life and death. The cicadas hummed their endless tune, and in the distance, a lonely acacia tree stood like an old guardian, its shadow stretching far and thin. Not far from that tree, a lion stirred. He was a magnificent creature. Though his ribs showed faintly beneath his tawny fur, his mane was still proud, still thick and golden like the dying sun. His name, once given by the rangers who used to watch him from afar, was Kano, meaning the Mighty One. But in truth, Kano hadn't felt mighty in many days. For 3 nights, he had not eaten. His strength was fading, and his patience was wearing thin. The dry season had been cruel this year. Prey was scarce, and the herd animals had migrated farther north. Hunger clawed at his belly like fire. His every movement was heavy, slow, and full of pain. Still, instinct drove him on. A lion cannot give up. Kano lifted his head, nostrils flaring. The air carried something strange, something that didn't belong to the savanna. It wasn't the musk of a gazelle or the sharp scent of a warthog. It was softer, sweeter. He sniffed again, puzzled. It was the smell of human. For a moment, his golden eyes flickered with confusion. Humans rarely came this deep into the wilderness. The sound of engines, the smell of metal, the loud shouts, all that belonged miles away near the camps. But here, it was just the endless expanse of grass and silence. And yet the scent was there, faint but fresh. Kano lowered his head, moving quietly through the tall grass. His paws pressed into the earth without a sound. He followed the scent like a ghost of the savanna, his tail swaying slowly, his ears twitching. After a while, he reached a small clearing where the grass gave way to sand and scattered stones. There, beside a fallen log, he saw something that made him stop. A small figure, sitting alone, a child, a little girl, no more than 6 or 7, wearing a faded pink dress, her hair tangled and full of dust. She sat with her knees pulled to her chest, her eyes wide and glassy from tears that had long since dried. A small teddy bear, missing one eye, lay beside her. She didn't see him at first. She was staring at the ground, whispering something softly, perhaps to her toy or to herself. Kano stood motionless. His muscles tensed, his hunger rising like a wave. He could hear the thud of her small heart, the quick breaths of fear. For the lion, this was survival. One leap, one bite, and hunger would end, but something in that moment changed. The wind shifted, carrying her scent directly to him. And with it came something else, a memory. Long ago, before the years of hunger, Kano had lived near the edge of the human lands. He had seen children before, running, laughing near the fences, their laughter echoing in the evenings when he lay resting. Once, he had even seen a small boy fall and cry, and the sound had made him curious, not angry. There was something about that sound, helpless, fragile, that stirred something deep within him. Now, as he looked at the little girl before him, that same strange stirring returned. The girl looked up at last. Her eyes met his, large, brown, trembling. For a heartbeat, the world stopped. The savanna went silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The lion and the child stared at one another, 2 beings from different worlds, caught in the same moment of fear and wonder. The girl didn't scream. She simply stared, frozen, clutching her teddy bear tightly. Kano took a slow step forward. The grass rustled under his paw. Her lip quivered. "Mama?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Kano tilted his head slightly. He didn't understand the word, but the tone, the trembling sound, pierced him like a thorn. He moved closer, one slow step at a time. His breath came in hot waves, stirring the dust between them. Then, a cry echoed from far away. A man's voice, desperate and broken. "Amina! Amina!" The girl's head snapped toward the sound. Her tiny face lit up with sudden hope. Kano's ears flattened. The cry was distant but approaching. The lion's instinct screamed at him, now or never. If he waited, he would lose his only chance to eat. He tensed his body, muscles coiling, ready to spring. But then, the girl turned back toward him. She wasn't running. She didn't even move away. Instead, she reached out her hand, her small, trembling fingers stretched toward the beast. Something in Kano's heart, The part that had hardened from hunger and pain wavered. He took another step forward, lowering his great head. His nose was inches from her hand now. The scent of dust, sweat, and innocence filled him. He could feel her fear and her strange, inexplicable trust. And then the most unexpected thing happened. The girl touched his mane. Her fingers brushed the rough fur at the edge of his face. It was like a whisper of life, a touch so gentle, so pure that it disarmed him completely. Kano blinked slowly, confusion flooding him. His hunger didn't vanish, but it dulled, replaced by a strange warmth he couldn't understand. The girl smiled faintly. "Good lion," she murmured. "You're not bad. You're just hungry, right?" The lion tilted his head. Her voice, soft and calm, reminded him of the rain, of the nights when his mother used to groom his fur under the stars. The man's voice echoed again, louder now. "Amina." "Where are you?" The girl turned her head, then looked back at Kano. "That's my Baba," she whispered. "He's looking for me." Kano's eyes flickered toward the sound. He could see faint shapes moving through the grass, humans coming closer. Every instinct told him to run. He hated humans, their guns, their loud noises, their smell of fear. But this time he stayed. The girl looked at him one last time. "Thank you, lion," she said softly, as if she somehow knew what he had not done. And then she stood up, clutching her teddy bear, and began walking toward the voices. Kano watched her go, her small figure wobbling slightly, her dress catching the last light of the setting sun. Then he looked at the ground where she had sat. A few crumbs of something, maybe a piece of bread, lay near the log. The girl must have dropped it. The lion lowered his head, sniffed it, and gently took it in his mouth. It wasn't meat, but it was something. He chewed slowly, the taste faint but real. As he lifted his head again, the horizon burned with orange light, and the humans' voices grew louder. Kano turned away, walking back into the grass, silent, graceful, fading into the endless gold. He was still hungry, but something inside him had changed. The Savanna had witnessed countless stories of life and death. But that evening, under the quiet sky, it had witnessed something rarer: mercy. The night after the encounter fell quietly over the Savanna. The moon hung like a silver coin in the black sky, and the wind whispered softly through the dry grass. Somewhere far away, a mother elephant rumbled to her calf, and the stars blinked with a stillness that only the wild could know. Kano walked slowly beneath that sky, his belly still hollow, but his spirit strangely calm. Every step was heavy, but not with hunger alone, with thought. If lions could think as men do, he would have wondered about the small creature who had touched his mane without fear, who had looked into his golden eyes and seen not a killer, but a soul. He found a spot beneath an old baobab tree and lay down, his great head resting upon his paws. The wind carried distant sounds, the faint laughter of hyenas, the rustle of mice, and farther still, the cry of a man reunited with his child. It was the same voice he had heard before, desperate, calling Amina. Now it was full of tears and relief. The sound drifted across the plains like a lullaby. And as Kano listened, his eyelids grew heavy. For the first time in many nights he slept, not from exhaustion but from peace, from exhaustion but from peace. When dawn broke, the Savanna awakened with life. Birds rose from the acacia trees, painting the sky with motion. The sun's warmth crept over the earth, washing away the night's chill. Near the edge of the plains, a small camp was being packed up. A man, tall, dark-skinned, with worry lines etched deep around his eyes, held his daughter close. His name was Idris, a guide who had spent years leading travelers through the wild lands of Tsavo. Beside him sat little Amina, her pink dress still dusty, her teddy bear clutched tightly. Her father's arms never left her shoulders, as though he feared she might vanish again if he let go. The rescuers and trackers gathered around, curious and concerned. "How did you survive the night, little one?" One of them asked gently. "There are lions out there. Hyenas, too." Amina looked up, her face calm and thoughtful beyond her years. "I met a lion," she said simply. The men exchanged uneasy glances, half smiling at what they assumed was a child's imagination. "A lion?" Idris asked, his heart freezing. "Amina, are you sure?" She nodded. He was hungry. I could see his ribs, but he didn't hurt me. He just looked at me. I touched his hair. It was rough but soft too. One of the older rangers frowned and stepped forward. Where did you see him? Amina pointed toward the horizon, where the grass waved in gold and green. The men followed her finger, but the lion was long gone. Only his paw prints remained, large, deep, circling the log where she had sat. The ranger knelt down beside the tracks, tracing the prints with his hand. His eyes widened. These are real, he murmured, and fresh. She's telling the truth. Idris felt his knees weaken. He pulled Amina close again, whispering a prayer of thanks under his breath. He looked out at the horizon, where the grass swallowed the morning light, and said softly, "May God bless the creature that spared my child." Days turned into weeks. The dry season broke with the arrival of the long-awaited rains. Thunder rolled across the plains, and the parched earth came alive again. Streams gushed where cracks had been, and the air grew cool and fragrant with new grass. Kano roamed those plains, his body regaining strength. The herds returned, zebras, antelopes, wildebeests, and with them came food and life. But something had shifted in him. He no longer hunted recklessly. His roars, once fierce and territorial, grew rarer, calmer. He would lie in the tall grass, watching the horizon as though guarding something unseen. To the rangers, this was strange. They began to notice a pattern. The lion who had once attacked livestock near the villages now avoided the herds completely. Some said age had made him weary. Others whispered it was the little girl's touch, that she had tamed the beast's spirit. One evening near the same old acacia tree, Kano heard a familiar sound. Laughter, light and clear, carried by the wind. He lifted his head and saw, from afar, a small group of humans near a safari jeep. Among them was a girl wearing a hat too big for her head, waving at the horizon. It was Amina. Years had passed. She was older now, perhaps 10. Her father stood beside her, showing travelers the land, telling them stories of its wonders and its mysteries. One of those stories had become a favorite among the visitors. They say a starving lion once found a lost child, Idris would tell them. But instead of killing her, he spared her life. They say the lion looked into her eyes and saw something human. Some call it a miracle. I call it mercy. Amina would always smile quietly when he told that part. She never corrected him. She knew it wasn't just mercy. It was something deeper, a kind of understanding that words couldn't hold. From his place in the tall grass, Kano watched her one last time. She didn't see him, but perhaps she felt something, for she turned her head suddenly toward the field and waved, as though greeting an old friend she couldn't see. Kano blinked slowly, then rose to his feet. The sun dipped low behind him, casting his shadow long and golden. And as the day faded into twilight, the lion turned and walked back toward the endless horizon. Seasons changed again. The rains came and went. Time, that quiet hunter, moved on. One morning the rangers found Kano near the base of the baobab tree where he often rested. He was lying still, his mane dusted with dew, his eyes closed as though in peaceful sleep. There were no wounds, no signs of struggle. He had simply gone. They buried him under that same tree, piling stones around the mound so the scavengers would stay away. Idris and Amina came to see the place. She laid her old teddy bear on the stones, the one she had carried that day in the Savanna. Tears welled in her eyes, but she smiled. "Goodbye, lion," she whispered. "Thank you." Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. "He was a king," he said softly, and he left the Savanna as kings do, with peace in their heart. Years later, when Amina had grown into a woman and Idris's hair had turned gray, the story of the merciful lion was still told in the villages. Travelers came from far away to hear it, a tale that sounded almost like a fable, but was true enough to make them pause and think. Some said the lion's spirit still roamed the plains, guarding lost children and scaring away predators. Others believed the land itself had remembered him, that whenever the wind rustled through the acacia trees at sunset, It carried the echo of his gentle roar. Amina would often return to that place with her own children. She would tell them, "The savannah is full of wildness and danger, yes, but it is also full of heart. Even a lion can have mercy. And sometimes, mercy is the greatest strength of all." And as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold, the children would sit quietly, imagining the mighty lion with the soft eyes, walking among the tall grass, eternal, noble, and free.